We don't know. There's so many things which could be creating this.
So you're more inclined towards multiplicity, yeah?
Multiplicity, that's a good word.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's your name?
David.
David. So David, would you class yourself more of an agnostic or an atheist?
So an atheist is somebody who does not believe in God.
Yeah, exactly.
An agnostic is somebody who's undecided.
Exactly, yeah.
So I've decided, well, it depends on my mood. I can't say one thing because I don't know. I can't. Jesus.
You said Jesus. You put Christianity in the mix.
Well, it's just a automatic phrase they use.
Just to be honest, I mean, the first camera came. That's not going to be filming you, but I feel that the other ones will be filming you as well.
Okay, I'll go here then.
It's up to you, but because you've got the mask on, I thought it should be okay, no?
You know, I might say something today, and then next year I disagree with what I said.
It's okay, it's
and
fine.
Then
I'm not going to hold you to
my
it.
face is on the internet and I'm held.
It's covered, it's covered, it's covered. It's
I'm
okay.
wearing it for protection of my family.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand.
So, I can't understand how anybody can be sure of anything. But that's exciting. Why do we need to have a text which tells us this is how to believe? Why do we need to be babysat? Maybe when we're children, but when we grow up, we create our own understanding of things.
Okay, sorry, what was the name you told me?
My name, David.
David.
And your
okay.
name?
My name is Zishan.
Oh, Zishan.
Zishan, yeah. All right, David. So I'm just going to have a bit of a thought experiment with yourself, and we go back to Assalamu alaikum. We go back to first principles, and we see that if maybe right from the get-go, if we can maybe rationalize some things and build some sort of structure, and maybe you can agree with it or disagree with it. You okay to do that, David?
What is your intention?
My intention is just to get you to think in a different direction.
Oh, sure. I'm always keen.
And just to explore that side, because maybe somebody hasn't articulated it to you before. Maybe you've been socially kind of driven through news and through literature.
Well, we all are.
Yeah, we all are. Sometimes it helps to hear the different sides. So, yeah. Okay, so what would you say, David, is the most elementary thing that we can agree on? If a person was to be the utmost skeptic, what would he say is certain? I'm thinking along the Descartes sort of mentality.
What is certain in life?
Yeah, what can you, standing here, you say, I'm absolutely
What is
certain
certain
about
in
this.
life?
Yeah.
Well, the joke is death.
Sam. You know what? He's got the capacity to
Very loud.
erupt also.
We
We just come here. So here is okay, yeah?
Can you go to shadow?
Shadow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we go down here? See, I told you. He erupted very quickly.
Well, there's a lot of very excited people. It's difficult when everybody thinks they're right. Not everybody can be right.
Precisely.
So the joke is death and taxes.
Death and taxis. You're gonna have to give me the context of that joke.
Well, you said what was your question?
What would you say, if you're the utmost skeptic, what would you say is the one thing that we can't deny?
One thing which will happen in life.
That we can't deny.
Death and taxes.
Death and taxis.
Well, we are on the planet and we die and we have to pay to live on it.
But wouldn't you argue that before death, you have to assume that there is a self?
Yeah. We're here briefly for a split second. There's one guy, I think it's Rumi, who said you have a tower and two windows and life is a bird flying through one window and out the other. So we have a brief interlude where we experience this. Very
Yes.
short time.
So Descartes initially he said, I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so
I'd agree with that.
this whole thing of thinking, and then Nietzsche came.
Although you can be a being without thinking, you can be in a coma.
Exactly. And that's why Nietzsche came and said, for you to even say I, where did this I come from? and then there's discussion and debate about I. So the bare minimum, this is what Descartes says as well, the bare minimum that we can assume is existence. Yeah,
Agreed.
for us to do anything, we have to first accept that there is existence. Things exist, I exist. You naturally agree with that?
Well, I could say that that we're in a game, in a computer game, and the model is so extreme that even our emotions, thoughts and feelings have been created. And I suppose that's what believers in God would say.
But then the being that's you, that's in the game, you have to grant that that still exists, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah, so
I agree
no
with you
matter,
so far.
yeah, no matter where you go,
we exist.
we exist. Second premise, if I was to, for example, hold my watch out and be confident and ask you, how comes this watch is not exploding? What would you say? Or if you're walking down, how does the floor not open up randomly and cars fall in, buses fall in? Why don't trees randomly start flying away? Why?
You're arguing that there is a world order, that there is an order in existence which keeps things in place.
Maybe, let's see.
That's what you're arguing.
Let's see.
And I would say that we have certain orders here where this place is unique. We have just the right amount of gravity to keep us, our shapes, our bodies, solid on the ground.
Do you believe that gravity can suddenly be suspended?
In space,
No, here on
yeah,
Earth?
no.
No. So I'm assuming from the fact that you acknowledge gravity, you acknowledge it being a somewhat consistent force. So there's three things you're assuming. You're assuming that the laws of nature are uniform,
Yes.
stable, and regular. That's why you came.
Until they're not.
Well, for us now, for you to go home, for you to go to work, you're assuming that the earth won't open up. You're assuming that things won't randomly start flying, things won't randomly start
I'm
disintegrating.
assuming that, although I turn on the news and I see all the time, the earth does open up and things
Yeah.
do go wrong.
When you say that the earth opens up, it's not really opening up. Those are tectonic plates.
Yeah.
That's the default kind of position on this planet, that we have tectonic plates and they will move. The earth opening up means in the sense that when it opens up, not like it normally does. Because the way it opens up now, that's part of nature as we understand it, isn't it? So when earthquakes happen, we don't say, oh, this is something that we haven't comprehended. We understand and we predict, and we have some sort of technology that we can say, okay,
Yes.
we feel there are tremors, we feel there's this, we feel there's that. So the second premise that you've agreed is the laws of nature are uniform, regular, and stable. So the first premise you agreed was there is existence. The second one is the uniformity, regularity, and stability of nature. Therefore, it now follows there is an existence that explains the uniformity, regularity, and stability
You're
in
linking
nature.
the two things together.
Yes, a logical syllogism.
You have, within this identity, I can accept this so far.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
So you accept that there has to be an existence. Yeah? Yes, we may not know that exists, no problem. So for now, there's an existence. Okay, excellent. Now, do you believe in the Big Bang, that things came ex nihilo from nothing? Or do you believe that there wasn't a Big Bang, there was an expansion?
Okay, I think that the Big Bang happens again and again and again, indefinitely.
Okay.
So everything expands to a certain point, then it retreats, and like a heartbeat, it'll expand and retreat ad infinitum. But that's my own theory. I have no idea.
I see.
I don't think anybody can. And I think that the invention of God is a human invention to explain existence.
But David, the thing is, God, because obviously as human beings, we're flawed. And we have various understandings, various temperaments, various cultures, countries, our upbringings. Therefore, just like you saw over here, you've got different people bringing a different piece to the game. And sometimes it may not be like we envisage things. For example, here in the UK, I mean, I like the fact that I can cross the road, a zebra crossing, without worrying that, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying?
I know in some countries they have zebra crossings, but they're just
it's just there for the sake of it.
Yes.
It's just to make the road look nice. So for me, if I was to go to another country, I can't deal with that. Stop at a red light.
Culture.
Yeah. So
Different culture.
yeah. So just like we accept that there's an existence. Okay, no problem. We want to call him God. We want to call him something else. We're not interested in the label at the moment. But the fact that there is an existence. Now, this existence naturally itself needs to be independent. Yeah?
Independent from what?
Just, okay. So initially we said there is existence. Then I would argue that there are three types of existences. You're more than welcome to respond. So one type of existence is something that can't exist. Yeah, like a squared circle. Yeah, that's one type of existence. Can't exist. Second type of existence. Second type of existence is something which is dependent. Yeah. And the third type of existence is something which is independent. Yeah.
So we can safely say, get rid of the first one, the square circle.
Yeah,
so just
exactly.
two.
Yeah.
Only two.
Yeah. In essence, yeah.
But dependent or not, that's on the same level. So it's one, actually. You have existence. I just see one.
There's two. I will tell you why there's two types of existences. So first, let's define these, because you've got these philosophers of the past that have defined them. So we've got some epistemic seedbed here that we can work with. So something that's dependent can cease to exist. Yeah, it's composed of parts, and those parts can be rearranged.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all part of the one existence.
So that's, I mean, you. I would say you're a dependent being.
Yeah, I've got maybe 70 years on the planet, and then I'm trees.
Hopefully longer.
I'll move into something else.
Yeah, hopefully longer. And then you have something which is independent.
Maybe 80.
100, then you get a letter from the
Maybe.
Queen. So,
But it doesn't make much difference.
well, the letter from the Queen.
No, the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. It's quality of life. So when it comes to something that's independent, that thing cannot cease to exist. That thing is not composed of parts. And that thing is not dependent on anything else. So then I'll pose the question to yourself. This universe, would you say the universe is dependent or independent?
The existence. Let's say
Universe,
the
as we know it, yeah.
I would say it's independent.
You'd say the universe is independent?
Yes. But
So-
then I don't know.
No, but because
we have this phrase multiverse, don't we?
we do.
And if we accept there's a multiverse, then the universe will be dependent on what happens outside it.
Very
so
good.
I don't know.
Very
None
good.
of us know.
Yes. So even, David, even if there is a multiverse, because the multiverse is dependent, is contingent on parts. Yeah?
Sure.
And because it's contingent on parts, therefore by definition is dependent on someone independent. So let's just say you say multiverse. A universe comes from another universe, that comes from another universe. Now, David, if we continue this, then there is something called infinite regress, which means that we logically won't be able to stand here. There needs to be the start. There needs to be, as Aristotle called, the prime mover. And this prime mover needs to have started it all. Otherwise, the problem is that we can't technically exist because there's an infinite regress.
Careful, there's a wasp trying to go in your sleeve.
Oh my God, do you want to flick it off?
I think it's gone. I think it's gone.
My God.
Um,
I seem to be a wasp
I don't-
magnet today.
So you think that because we are independent parts, there has to be a reason. There has to be some, let's say, creative force. I understand where you're going with this.
No, what I'm saying is the definitions that are
A
agreed
creative force.
of dependence. Yeah, so dependent beings are consistent of parts. They're made from parts.
Yeah.
They can cease to
I
exist,
think for the
etc.
first time I'm going to disagree with you because I think that chance, the throwing of all sorts of different kinds of chaos into the mix, nobody knows what's going to happen next, can change everything.
So you're saying chance in itself is independent. That's the prime mover.
Yeah.
Okay, then you call it chance, we call it God, someone calls it an existence, someone calls it something else. You've still acknowledged that there is some sort of prime mover. You just you're just calling it chance.
That guy with the bicycle nearly knocked down the trident. But if he hadn't left over there, he wouldn't have. So you could go back, as you say, regressive.
Yeah.
So
what
I'm not understanding where you're leading.
So David, if I was to summarize, so initially you accepted that there needs to be an existence. I said, okay, no problem.
Right.
Now we're just trying to understand logically what that existence would compose of, what characteristics. So you already accepted that there's an existence. Then we say, okay, there were 3 types of existences. The first one you were unhappy with. You said it doesn't exist, squared circle, we can get rid of that. Then independent and dependent. Then I defined these as Bertrand Russell and the likes, all these guys have defined them. I mean, these are pretty, people don't really have difference of opinion with regards to the definitions. Dependent is something which is composed of parts, it can cease to exist, and it depends on something else. Independent is something which is not consistent, is not dependent upon parts.
So get to the...
So the question that I posed to you was this. Yeah, so the question I posed to you was this. Is the universe dependent or independent? Then you said it was independent. And I wanted to say independent. That's our definition of God. So where we call him God, you're saying the universe is God. And then to follow on from that,
I'm not using the word God.
I understand, I am. So I'm saying we call the independent being God, whilst you would call it the universe.
Well, no, because the definition of your religion, as I understand it, is that there is a willpower. That this God, this independence, wants to do things, wants to create things. And I don't believe that's the case.
That's fine.
I don't see why there should be a need to create things.
But even if we were to look at will, also David, we also realize that if you were to look at, for example, Earth, or something in our universe, I would argue, why is it one way and not the other way?
If I were to look at,
let's just say our planet.
Yeah.
Why is it one way and not the other way?
I don't wish to be filmed.
You just film me. Why is it one way and not another way?
Why is it one way?
Our planet, the way it is, why is it one way and not another way? For example, the way...
Is it the way it is?
Yeah.
Why is the planet the way it is?
Yes.
Because of what happened moments earlier.
And what happened moments earlier?
Well, it's a process, isn't it? It's a logical process. So it's continuing indefinitely. The world won't be here one day just as it wasn't here in the past.
You may be right, but we're more interested in how it started, the beginning.
Well, it's a continual process of the transference of energy.
Interesting. Do you believe that the universe is infinite? Or do you believe it had a beginning?
I think how I described it earlier as a heartbeat of energy contracting and exploding indefinitely is as good as it gets.
Do you believe it had a starting point?
I believe it had a starting point. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, that's brilliant. I think that's an honest answer. But what I'm saying is that...
we're not equipped to understand. We're just equipped to survive for a day, really.
Well, I mean, I would obviously disagree with that. But when it comes to, you're saying... You said there is a beginning, yeah?
No, I said I didn't know.
Oh, you said you didn't know. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if we were to explore both, if we say there's a beginning, I would argue that there needs to be a prime mover to get everything started. Yeah? That himself cannot be part of the universe, otherwise then he would be contingent also. It needs to be somebody that's independent.
Somebody.
Well, some existence.
Away there by saying body.
Slip of the tongue, yeah. Freudian slip.
Well, it's a very important Freudian slip, because the idea that God is a body is a fantastic invention, because it humanizes the deity.
I agree with you. We don't believe that it's a somebody. It's just sometimes, for example, when we say he, it's a majestic he. It's how sometimes just for the sake of communication we just make it easy.
That's another interesting word, because how can we decide what sex the Supreme Maker has? I would have thought that it would be sexless.
That's what we believe also. But this is like a majestic he, because if we use a word...
Yeah, majestic she's. My wife is a majestic she.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure she's a very nice lady. So coming back to the point, David, if we believe that the universe itself was kept going on and on ad infinitum, then David, we can't technically exist.